This week's Parsha is Parsha Todah. Todah is a branch. So Todot is the plural, means many branches. So actually the branch, the tree of the Jewish people is really significant in this week's Parsha of Toldot. The branches really center around this figure called Yitzhak, otherwise in English known as Isaac. And Yitzhak and his brother were born as twins. So, of course, this dualistic theme that I'm constantly appearing, and here we have it right here. These two figures are symbols of our inner struggle. They both represent the good inclination and the bad inclination, but each one has a certain koach, or a certain strength, a certain power, and both were blessed. And the Torah says the older will be served by the younger. The younger, he'll have to answer to the younger one. And this idea was even prior to the birth of the twins. Rivka, who we learned last week, was Yitzchak's wife. And when she had twins, the Midrash said she would go by these houses and her stomach would be kicking up when it went off between the houses of idol worship, it would kick off, and when they went off between the houses of Shem, which were really the descendants for the Moshe and the tribe of the Jewish people, it was also kicking. So she couldn't figure out what was in her stomach. But God had a better plan. He said, these are going to be the twin nations, and they are constantly going to be at each other's throat. And your job, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, is to try to bring peace to this world. In other words, your job here, there's the evil inclination, which is called the Yetzer Hara, and the heart has two inclinations, the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara, the bad inclination, the Yetzer Hara. And Esav is known as Adom, which is really Rome, which is the Roman Empire, and Yaakov is known as the Yetzer Tov, which is the good inclination. But there's a conflict here. What is Yaakov is a mess, but what happened to him? Emet is truth, and that's what he wants to advance in his personality, characteristics, in his life. He wants to live a truthful life. So, in this week's parsha, the mother says, "Listen, your father's getting old. I want him to bless you." Because Esav really came out first. But he was called Yaakov, the heel, because when he was coming out of his mother's womb, he was grabbed onto the hill to get the bracha, but he didn't come out first. So now, in this week's parsha, Esav comes from the field and said, "Listen, Yaakov, I've been hunting animals and I'm going to die." He said, "Will you? I'll sell you my birthright. Just give me some hot food." See, Adom is red. Adam is red. Adama is the red dirt. Adom is the nation of Esav, and Dam is blood. So it's all connected in these words. Adam is the first man, made out of 90%, 80% water, which is blood. Adama is the ground that in which man was created, and Dam is blood. So here we go. God's saying, I want you to focus. You have two children, but one is going to be a builder of nations like Rome, the Roman Empire, and the other is going to be a man that sits in tents. And this is Yaakov. He's reaching a greater spiritual dimension. So Yitzchak was like in last week's parsha. He was the korban. He was the sacrifice. He was he was about to be offered by his father, and he willfully went as a up the mountain to do the will of his father. And this is how the loyalty and the understanding of the wisdom of the Torah comes to fruition by commitment and loyalty to God above and to one's parents. And these are the kernels of the institution of what a family should be. Today we have a total dysfunctional family. A matter of fact, we have liberal laws and rules that the institution of family has taken a big hit. And then we got these nations at war, like, Israel, Gaza, right? Israel, Gaza. This war really started at this time way back then in the Bible, 3,000 years ago. Last week's Parsha, it was the birth of Ishmael. Ishmael is the son of the Muslim nation, the Muslim Brotherhood. But she didn't see that he would be a good influence on Isaac, on Yitzchak, because Yitzchak was to be the progenitor of a greater consciousness, which includes this idea of Hashem, the Yud K I mentioned about, the bringing and working among a greater authority, not just the me. Me is the desire. That's the Yetzirah. You might call it the Middle East, the me, M-E. Funny joke, not so funny. But Yitzhak, his name means laughter. So how do we keep our happiness? How do we keep our joy in this time when everything is upside down and good appears to be bad and bad appears to be good? Open, if you're Jewish, open the 5 books of Moses, read this Parsha Toldot, see the origin and the roots of our very rich heritage, and you will see the dualism, and you will see what the Torah is trying to say. Esau wasn't really what we think he is, even though he's labeled by the Chachamim as someone, like a Rasha, someone evil, but in reality, he gave his father more honor and respect than Yaakov, because Yaakov, at the voice of his mother, said, "Let the curse fall on me, Yaakov, if he doesn't bless you, because I want you to be blessed." He, at the age of 40, took from the Canaanite nation 2 wives, Barry and Elon, Barry, Elon, and it's interesting because this kibbutz that was taken was called Kibbutz Barry, right? This was the one that was actually pursued by Hamas, right? It's kind of connected, and the one next to it was a more traditional one, and it wasn't touched. I'm not saying that this is why this happened, but I'm just trying to see that there's a God in this world, and he looks to protect us, just like he looked to protect Yaakov for taking his brother's blessing. So when he took his brother's blessing, he was really forced in exile. That's why Yaakov is a night prayer, because he is the exile of the Jewish people. The 12 tribes came from him, and he is the night. But he doesn't give up. That's the power of the Jewish people, is that when you have faith and you tried and you pray to God and you try to find solutions and you try to act in a good way, in an honest way. See, Yaakov was working with Lavan. Lavan was there for 20 years, and he had a family. And then Lavan switched his daughters, is not right to marry, you know, the the he had two girls, and one of them he married out of the age order, and he had to work another 7 years for Rachel. So he tricked him. He was a big trickster. He was from this lower level culture, not the culture of the Canaanites, but they were idol worshippers. They were idol worshippers in that country, and the purpose of Yaakov and Yitzhak and Avram coming is to get away from this idol worship. So at 40, he takes the Canaanite brides, and it caused bitterness between Yitzhak and his wife Rivka, because at 40 always seems to be a traditional number. He married Rivka. Yitzhak married Rivka, and then at 60 years old, he gave birth to the twins. And this is you can see the focus in the woman's stomach. They were already fighting, and they've been fighting for thousands of years. So how do we make peace? How do we make the correction? How do we have the right focus? The focus is that we have to include Hashem in our world. When we don't have Hashem in our world, then we lose sight of our direction. When we have ourselves and our own wants and our own desires, and we don't include the community, and we don't include that there's a greater spirit in the world, then we have conflict. Now, this conflict is mentioned in the oral tradition, and that says that Israel is to suffer for another between 6,000 and 7,000 years in the Gemara of Shabbat. But as long as the Jews are keeping the Shabbat and keeping kosher and keeping the laws of family purity, accepting Hashem into their world, then there is a certain blessing for the Jewish people. And we see it now because 50% of the Jews are now in the land of Israel, and the world is upside down, but the Jewish people are still praying. The Jewish people still hope that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And the Jewish people are going underground, under the tunnels, to destroy their enemy. We're all created in the children of God. And even Esau, which is the Yetzirah, they say when we die, the Malach HaMovet, the angel of death comes to us. That's also known as the Yetzirah. But there's a concept called Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba, this world and the next world. When we go to the next world, what we accumulate, the good that we accumulate in this world, is recognized by the Creator up above. So we get a certain status. And there's a tradition that the souls have a certain play above, even long after the body departs and the soul leaves the body. So this tradition has to be kept by the Jewish people. And it was the creation of Yitzhak when he decided, and his wife told him, for the sake of Kedusha, don't give the blessing to Esau, the Yetzirah. Give it to the Yetzer Tov, because we have to keep the values of good alive in our lives for the whole world. That is the destiny of the Jewish people, to be a mission, a light upon the nations, to show that it's about community, it's about caring, it's not about destroying, it's about building. What are the building? Lahavin is to understand. In that verb is ben. Ben is the son. It's said in this week's Parsha, according to the Klei Yakar, Molid et Yitzchak. What do you mean, Molid? Yitzchak gave birth to the twins? No, his wife gave birth. But you see, Hagar, the woman, gave birth in last week's parsha in Chai Sarah to Yishmael, which is the individual in the Muslim tradition. But it wasn't, she saw that he didn't have the right behavior, that her concept of what the Jewish people should bring. Even though she came from a different avenue, and even though the Torah was not given, they had this understanding of this concept of one God, even before the Torah was given. Few people had it. Some prophets and the founding fathers and the founding mothers. Even Hagar had angels, and God was with her even after she was excommunicated. So they're still fighting. They're still fighting, but we don't know the end. But the idea is that we have to try to create this humanitarian effort to work things out. And this is the challenge of the Jewish people. It's a challenge of the world today, that the differences that we have, Esau honored his father. He got dressed up in fancy clothes for his father. And he gave a loud scream, "Why did you give him the blessing? He took my blessing twice. Once at birth, he tried. Once at birth. And then now, he did give it up. He did say, I was hunting. But the idea is God had the world to be built by two great nations, by three great nations. The Arab, the Christian, which is Esau. Esau is Rome, and Western civilization, America, is that extension of Rome. And here we have today, current events, we have the Jewish people, and supposedly the most democratic state, where it could never happen to Nazi Germany. This is the Yetzirah. So we have anti-Semitism, which is not new. The church had 2,000 years of anti-Semitism. This is not new. I always felt that it always existed. That's why I moved to Israel 12 years ago. But the thing is, my advice to the Jewish people is, learn your Torah. Get into your identity. Know who your friends are. Sure, there are good Gentiles. There are good Jews. They're all different types. So you just have to know that God's blessing to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob will come to fruition. But you have to see a light, a straight beam in front of you. You can't be despaired, because the Yetzirah, the bad inclination, can destroy our thinking. And it says, when the heart has the Yetzirah, we have to erase the doubt. They say Amalek is doubt. In Gematria, in the highest level of Sod learning in many 70 faces of Torah, doubt, Safek, is equivalent to Amalek in the Hebrew letters. They both equal the same amount. And that's how we can extract even further depth to the wisdom of the Torah. That, they say in every generation there's an Amalek. Amalek is doubt. Amalek doesn't believe. Amalek believes in something not straight, something not pure. Yaakov was the example. 20 years of Lavan cheating him. He gave him all the sheep. He did everything until God says, okay, you've done your job. Now you're going to go, and you have to leave. And when he left, he was meeting his brother Esau. But because he had the chachma, the wisdom of the Torah, he was able to meet his brother, make peace with him, and move forward. And I give a blessing to everybody in this Parsha Toldos, that we try to move forward, not to have doubt, not to have fear. We have in America the Chinese coming to the Americans because they're a little bit upset about their communications between business. Have their business been honest? Been this? It's the same story, but we have to work it out and know that God is running this world. And when we see that God is running the world, and He has a place for the Jewish people, do not try to destroy the Jewish people. because it says in this week's Parsha, whoever blesses the Jews are blessed. Whoever curses the Jews are cursed. And if you don't think God has our back, if you Jewish people have doubt where you belong, learn some more Torah, see your place in Israel, perhaps. Israel's being attacked from 3 different directions. Even they're sending missiles from Yemen, and they got Hezbollah on the north, and they got on the south Hamas. Israel is like, it looks like, whoa, what's going to happen? We have to have faith that Hashem has our back. And we have to believe that there's purpose and quality in finding the right couple, the right union. And this union between Yitzchak and Rivka that we see, and their children, and the challenges that we all have with all of our children, to go within a certain sense of unity, blessing, bracha, and to educate, to build worlds, not to destroy them. The temple should be built soon in our days, and the exiles should come back to Israel soon, and we should understand that God has our back, and that if we're like straight and focused and continue to work with the individuals rather than flee, rather than fight, but just try to understand and try to come and allow God to help us with greater clarity to fix the problems so the redemption can soon come. Have a good Shabbos from Jerusalem.